Welcome to the 2020 Freedom Awards, hosted by the United States Capitol Historical Society. Please rise for the singing of our national anthem, performed by Darren Scott, a Baltimore native and member of the world-renowned Morgan State University Choir.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave, the brave.
Please welcome U.S. Capitol Historical Society President and CEO, the Honorable Jane L. Campbell.
Thank you, Darren Scott, for that powerful rendition of our national anthem. And welcome each and every one of you to this 2020 Freedom Awards. I'm Jane Campbell. I have the honor of being the president and CEO of the Capitol Historical Society. And it is so great to have you with us tonight to honor Dr. Carla Hayden, the 14th Librarian of Congress, whose career has been barrier-breaking, history-making, and is still setting the stage. We also want to thank all of the members, donors, and supporters of the Society, because this event is only possible because of the philanthropic contributions that people make to the Society. We also have had very great support from the Library of Congress staff, especially Roswell and Sia, who has been remarkable, our own amazing staff at the Society led by Jen Romberg, and a special shout out to Mariko Bennett and her team at Cocoa Bee Productions, whose creativity in building a memorable event has been amazing. Thank you very much all. In 1993, the Society created the Freedom Award to recognize and honor individuals and organizations that advance greater public understanding and appreciation for freedom as represented by the United States Capitol and Congress. In recent years, we've honored journalist Cokie Roberts, congressional stalwarts Daniel Inouye and John Dingell, filmmaker Ken Burns, cabinet secretaries William Cohen and Norm Mineta, civil rights leader and congressional icon John Lewis, historian David McCullough, and Hamilton creator Lin-Manuel Miranda. This year, it is an honor to put Dr. Carla Hayden on that distinguished list. Let me tell you about Dr. Hayden. She was sworn in as the 14th Librarian of Congress on September 14th, 2016. Hayden is the first woman and the first African American to lead our National Library. She was nominated by President Obama on February 24th, 2016, and her nomination was confirmed by the United States Senate on July 13th of that year, a very speedy confirmation. Prior to her latest post, she had a distinguished career in Baltimore, Maryland, as the CEO of the Pratt Free Library. She was on the National Museum and Library Services Board, also a Senate-confirmed position. She was Deputy Commissioner and Chief Librarian of Chicago Public Librarian. She has been a professor at the University of Pittsburgh, and she started her career as a children's librarian. And so she is a person who understands libraries in every way. Over the next hour, you'll hear from a series of special guests. And of course, you'll hear from Dr. Hayden and a panel of historians and creators who've used the Library of Congress in their work. And we will then close the presentation with the presentation of the award. And Dr. Hayden's mom will present the award. So that is our plan. So joining us, the first is a barrier-breaking woman in her own right, the Speaker of the House, the Honorable Nancy Pelosi.
Thank you, Jane Campbell, for your kind introduction and for your strong leadership of the U.S. Capitol Historical Society. On behalf of the House of Representatives, it is a joy to send greetings to the distinguished scholars, colleagues, and friends at the U.S. Capitol Historical Society 2020 Freedom Award ceremony. It is a personal and professional privilege to join you in celebrating my dear friend and our Historic Librarian of Congress, Dr. Carla Hayden, with this distinguished honor. Since 1993, the Freedom Award, named in honor of the Statue of Freedom that adorns the Great Dome of the Capitol, has honored the inspiring Americans who advance public appreciation for the ideals of our great democracy. In 1863, in the midst of the Civil War, as the statue was set in place, the Commissioner of Public Buildings says, "Freedom now stands on the dome of the Capitol. May she stand there forever, not only in form, but in spirit." The brilliant Dr. Carla Hayden embodies the spirit of freedom. Her career has been dedicated to the noble idea that through libraries, the whole wisdom of humanity can be free to all people. Dr. Carla Hayden is a force for progress. As the first woman and first Black Librarian of Congress, she has opened the doors of this pillar of our democracy to ensure that the treasures of American history are shared by all. Her work elevates the rich, diverse history and culture of our nation, from honoring the centennial of women's suffrage to powerful initiatives that celebrate our vibrant musical and artistic heritage. Even amidst the pandemic, Dr. Hayden has worked to promote freedom of information through pioneering online programming that allows children and adults everyone to learn and thrive. And during her tenure as leader of Baltimore's Enoch Pratt Free Library and president of the American Library Association, her energetic leadership was key to ensuring that the freedom and civil liberties of all readers were protected while empowering and enriching her community. On behalf of the United States Congress, thank you, Dr. Carla Hayden, for your outstanding commitment to realizing the promise of our democracy and the blessings of freedom for all. Congratulations on this well-deserved recognition of your lifetime of extraordinary service. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We are so grateful that you took the time to be with us. And next, I would like to welcome a special guest, David Rubenstein, the co-founder of the Carlyle Group, philanthropist, and a generous supporter of the Library of Congress, and dear friend of our honoree tonight. Well, in order to watch the video, I'm going to invite Dr. Hayden and her mom to come join me on stage so that she can watch the video presentation. So Dr. Hayden, will you please come up on stage?
Oh,
All right, we
wonderful.
got Dr. Hayden and her mom Are you ready for David Rubenstein?
Oh, and I'm just, thank you, Jane, and it's just everyone associated with the Historical Society, to be in the company of your past awardees, to be a recipient this year amid everything, and you put all of this together. I can't thank you enough.
Well, we thank you for being everything you do every day and for being part of this and making this really fun. So now let's hear from your friend and supporter,
Yeah.
David Rubenstein. Take it away, David Rubenstein.
Hello, I'm David Rubenstein. I grew up in Baltimore and I learned how to read from the library known as the Enoch Pratt Library. It was the free library in Baltimore. So nothing could have pleased me more when the then head of the Enoch Pratt Library became the Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden. As Librarian of Congress, I've had a chance to work with her very closely through the Madison Council and other projects she's led. And I would tell you, she's an extraordinary, extraordinary person, a great librarian, a great scholar, a great person, and a person who has done a terrific job in enhancing the Library of Congress and building on the traditions of many other great librarians of Congress. So it's with great pleasure that I work with her on a variety of projects, including the National Book Festival, and it's my view that Carla Hayden will go down in history as one of the greatest librarians of Congress we've ever had. In her term as Librarian of Congress, I've developed a special relationship with Carla Hayden, and I'm quite pleased and proud of that relationship. But many other people have developed close relationships as well, and now you're going to hear a little bit from some of them.
Hello, everyone. I'm Senator Ben Cardin of Maryland, and it is a pleasure and honor to join you today. I would like to extend my congratulations to Dr. Carla Hayden for receiving the Freedom Award from the United States Capitol Historical Society. This award is testament to her work and character. For more than 2 decades, Dr. Hayden oversaw one of the crown jewels of Baltimore, the Enoch Pratt Free Library. She will always have a special place in our city for her incredible work as a defender of the free flow of information, civil rights, and privacy protections. Dr. Hayden is truly a remarkable woman who has continuously shattered glass ceilings through her outstanding achievements, such as being the first African American to be named Library Journal's Librarian of the Year in 1995. I was proud to recommend her to President Obama for a groundbreaking nomination to become our nation's top librarian. Maryland's great loss was an incredible gain for our country. Since day one in Washington, Dr. Hayden has worked tirelessly to ensure the Library of Congress's vast literature and academic resources are widely available, particularly during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Her efforts have benefited millions of Americans. Dr. Hayden is being honored tonight for the incredible mark she has made on the Library of Congress so far. The truth is, she is just getting started. Congratulations, Dr. Hayden, on earning this year's U.S. Capitol Historical Society Freedom Award.
I'm Lonnie Bunch, Secretary of the Smithsonian Institution, and I am delighted to offer Dr. Hayden my congratulations on receiving the Freedom Award. This honor is well-deserved. Throughout the challenges of the past year, Carla and I have worked together. I have been privileged to witness again and again her thoughtfulness, her innovative spirit, and her staunch commitment to public service. She is the champion of public institutions and public history that our country needs right now. Carla, on behalf of the entire Smithsonian, thank you for all that you've done, and congratulations.
My name is Joy Harjo, U.S. Poet Laureate, and I'm here to congratulate Dr. Carla Hayden on receiving the U.S. Capitol Historical Society's Freedom Award. Dr. Carla Hayden, you remind us that libraries are places of freedom for all members of our communities. They are command stations of knowledge. What is freedom, after all, but access to the quality of life for everyone? And of course, libraries are crucial to the quality of life, whether they are tucked into strip mall storefronts or sitting impressively in the center of the U.S. Capitol. I know that I'm not the only one thrilled to have an opportunity to celebrate you and this award. So Meadow, as we say in the Muskogee Creek Nation, thank you for your guardianship of freedom. Yay.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Colleen Shogan, and I'm a Senior Vice President at the White House Historical Association and a member of the Scholars Council at the United States Capitol Historical Society. I'm also a proud former staff member of the Library of Congress. I would like to extend my warmest congratulations to Dr. Carla Hayden for receiving the 2020 Freedom Award. Dr. Hayden is the ideal recipient for this award. One of the most important functions of the Library of Congress is providing members of Congress and their staffs with nonpartisan, objective, and authoritative information so that they can do their jobs effectively. The Library of Congress also serves as a place for members to gather and discuss the most pressing issues of the day, often using American history as a valuable lens of reference. Under Dr. Hayden's leadership, Congress views the library as such a resource. One member of Congress described it to me as an oasis of knowledge. Dr. Hayden has marshaled the full complement of the Library of Congress's brain power, research, and collections to ensure the Congress is equipped to make decisions that affect and hopefully benefit all of us. One recent example has been the Library of Congress's leadership during the centennial celebration of the 19th Amendment. The exhibit Shall Not Be Denied and its related programming enlightened the Capitol Hill community and the American public with the inspirational stories of suffragists and how they demanded women's right to vote. And what a year to highlight this anniversary as the nation elected the first woman and first African-American Vice President of the United States. Once again, congratulations to Librarian of Congress, Dr. Carla Hayden. You now join the distinguished ranks of previous Freedom Award winners, and it is certainly well-deserved.
What a treat to be able to congratulate you, Carla, on your selection as this year's Freedom Award recipient. The Capitol Historical Society, along with all of us who are familiar with your life's work, celebrated your appointment as the nation's librarian and have been so moved by how you have made the Library of Congress the people's library. Librarians and libraries across the country have long looked to the Library of Congress for direction and inspiration, and you have ushered in a new era of education, enlightenment, and entertainment, which has put the library visitor in the center of our thinking. Well done, Carla. It's so nice to have you at the top.
Hi there, Senator Barbara Mikulski here. I so wish we were all celebrating together in person, and one day we will. I'm so glad to be able to offer my congratulations to someone I so admire, my good friend, Dr. Carla Hayden, for being awarded the 2020 Freedom Award by the U.S. Capitol Historical Society. I can't think of anyone more deserving of this award. You know, someone once said that librarians are the generals in the war against ignorance. Whoever said that sure must have known Dr. Hayden. Her commitment to libraries and the incredible information and knowledge they hold is best seen to her commitment to making sure that that knowledge is available to everyone, regardless of who they are or where they come from. But it just isn't about information in the four walls of a library. Dr. Hayden knows better than anyone the role that libraries play in our communities. So much so that she kept the lights on and the doors open at Baltimore's Enoch Pratt Library during the Baltimore Uprising of 2015. She knew what our communities needed: trusted places, safe places for people to be able to come together, to listen, to learn, and to heal. She brought in lawyers, she brought in social workers, and she kept bringing in more books and more ways to learn. Dr. Hayden has brought that same understanding, that same desire for innovation and bringing people together in her commitment to the Library of Congress. She's done an outstanding job leading the National Library. Of course, guarding our nation's knowledge, guiding the next generation of Americans searching for a window to the world, and being the library to Congress in order to help make sure that America knows that this library is their library. So let's raise a glass to Dr. Hayden on this hard-earned and well-deserved awards. Congratulations.
Oh, okay.
And we know that everybody's at home. And so everybody has their own glass, and we all together say,
thank you,
Dr. Hayden, to you, to your work, and to your incredible career.
Thank you so much.
And now we have someone who you even want to hear from more. And that is Senator Roy Blunt.
Oh, yes.
Because we know that he's the one who looks over your budget. So Senator Blunt has his remarks, and we will offer him the opportunity to make his remarks at this time. Senator Blunt.
Hi, I'm Roy Blunt. I wish we could all be together in person in the Capitol's statuary hall where this ceremony is usually held. But I'm glad that rather than canceling altogether, this ceremony is being conducted virtually as so many other events have been this year. And by doing it this way, I can help the United States Capitol Historical Society honor Dr. Carla Hayden. I was fortunate enough to get to know Dr. Hayden when President Obama nominated her to be the 14th Librarian of Congress in February of 2016. I've been lucky to be able to call Dr. Hayden and her mother Colleen friends ever since. You know, her mom was born in St. Louis, so she and I immediately bonded as native Missourians, and Carla's benefited a lot from that Missouri connection, if you ask me. And as the nation's chief librarian, she's the steward of millions of books, manuscripts, maps, posters, photographs, a collection of over 170 million items. She also oversees the Congressional Research Service, the nation's top law library, the National Library Service for the Blind and the Physically Handicapped, and the Copyright Office. When Dr. Hayden came before my committee, the Senate Committee on Rules and Administration, as a nominee in 2016, I told her that the next Librarian of Congress would lead an organization with significant physical and technical limitations, and an organization that was struggling to adapt to a new century and a new way to communicate. It's clear that Congress's faith in Dr. Hayden was well placed as we see many innovative and exciting things happening at the library. Dr. Hayden's presiding over the modernization of the Copyright Office and the effort to centralize and modernize the library's information technology system to make it work across the library as a whole. Since her confirmation, Carla's been working to expand user access to the library, both on-site and online. Her top priority for on-site efforts has been enhancing the visitor experience. She's leading a groundbreaking project in the library's Thomas Jefferson building to create a youth center, a treasury gallery for rare items from the library's collection, and a welcoming orientation space where visitors can learn more about the work of the library, where the library is today, and what the library has meant to the country over time. I've certainly really enjoyed working with Dr. Hayden on this project. I look forward to seeing the finished product. I also want to congratulate Dr. Hayden on enhancing the library collections to remain accessible to the public through this really challenging COVID-19 time. She's ensured that people got a way to continue to get to that collection and take advantage of it, and frankly, maybe at a time when they're trying to expand the way that they're using their time differently than they ever have before. The library has offered a number of online resources for teachers and for students during this difficult time. That includes its Engage page, which aggregates the library's online learning content. I can't think of anyone more deserving of the U.S. Capitol Historical Society's Freedom Award than my good friend, Dr. Carla Hayden.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that a great tribute?
It's wonderful.
So now we get to do the fun live panel. And so I'm very excited. We have such an interesting panel tonight. And what we wanted to do was have this panel really talk about how people use the Library of Congress resource and create a conversation. So I'm going to get it started, and then Dr. Hayden's going to take it into a conversation. We have two distinguished historians. We have Pulitzer Prize winning historian Jon Meacham. And Mr. Meacham's bio was going to be too long to get through the program. So I'm just giving you some very minor highlights. He is a renowned presidential historian, contributing writer to the New York Times Book Review, contributing editor at Time. His books include Destiny and Power, The American Odyssey of George Herbert Walker Bush, which was a #1 New York Times bestseller. American Lion, Andrew Jackson in the White House, which won the 2009 Pulitzer Prize for Biography. Thomas Jefferson, The Art of Power. Franklin and Winston, an intimate portrait of an epic friendship. An American Gospel, God, the Founding Fathers, and the Making of a Nation. His most recent book is about John Lewis. He is a member of the Council of Foreign Relations and the Society of American Historians, a distinguished visiting professor at Vanderbilt University. We often see him in the morning on Morning Joe and other broadcasts as he puts into historical perspective the issues of our time. We are so honored that Mr. Meacham has joined us. In addition to Mr. Meacham, we have Dr. Joanne Freeman. And Dr. Freeman is the class of 1954 professor of history and American studies at Yale University. She is the president-elect of the Society for Historians of the Early American Republic and is one of the nation's leading scholars on early American politics. She focuses on political culture and political violence. She's the author of the prize-winning Affairs of Honor, National Politics in the New Republic, the editor of Alexander Hamilton, Writings and the Essential Hamilton, and co-editor with Jonathan Neum of Jeffersonian Republicans in Power, 1800 to 1824. Her most recent book, The Fields of Blood, Violence in Congress in the Road to the Civil War, which came out in 2018, a time when people were saying, Congress has never been this much at odds. And here comes Dr. Freeman with her book that says, oh yes, it has been worse. And we were fortunate to have her come and speak in Statuary Hall for the Society when that book was new, as we welcomed the 116th Congress. Dr. Freeman has long been committed to public-minded history, has been a historical advisor for museums, documentary filmmakers, and for Lin-Manuel Miranda. But what you may not know is that she worked for the Library of Congress and curated and coordinated exhibits, educational materials, and public matters. She's the host of History Matters, a weekly webcast about history, and is one of the people who often is looked to by various media folks who are trying to say, okay, tell us the rest of the story. So we have two people who are historians and commentators on what's going on first. So we will start with Dr. Freeman.
Hi there. The first thing I want to say is it's such an honor, Dr. Hayden, to be here and be part of this event to honor you. As someone who, in one way or another, was with the Library of Congress for a good number of years, both working for it and as a scholar using it, it has always been a magical place for me. And one of the ways in which it was, I suppose, part of a larger way in which I became interested in history is I've always been really interested in the human component of history, in the way that history felt, how people experienced it. And I'm particularly interested in the founding. And before working at the library, I came at them through their letters and correspondence, trying to get a sense of what it felt like to be a national politician in the early years of the government, which were pretty improvisational. The Library of Congress, there's no better place to study that kind of topic. No matter what kind of question you ask, not only is there information on it, but there's hands-on stuff, right? There's the stuff of history, the letters that people wrote, the memos they sent, even the objects that they deposited at the library. The most remarkable one to me, and I still sort of see it as a holy grail Library of Congress moment for myself, is the chance to see James Madison's notes that he took on the floor of the Constitutional Convention to note the proceedings of what was going on. So, I teach about the Constitution, I teach about Madison, I teach about the founding, but to see that little box with Madison's little scrawl of handwriting on it, and to know that he was there taking notes and then writing them over at the end of the day so that they were neat, that little box contained the actual process of creating the government. And in a way, there's no more powerful thing than the human evidence of the people who, in one way or another, shaped where we are today.
And if I could,
Please, Dr. Hayden,
thank you so
what would you
much.
like to ask Dr. Freeman?
This is wonderful to be speaking with you too, because your experiences working at the Library of Congress also demonstrate another part. They're the real materials. You're touching history, but the staff members are also a great resource because they can lead you. And did you have some experiences where the librarians and the curators were able to guide you and say, look at this, or what about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right that part of the magic of the library is its holdings.
Yes.
And the other part is absolutely the staff and the people who work there. They have such a remarkable amount of knowledge, not just about their topic, but also about anything in the library that relates to it. It was amazing to have a question about something and to wander to the prints and photographs division or the manuscripts division, and to have someone there who could literally put their hand on some remarkable piece of evidence and hand it over to you as a scholar, or when I was working on exhibits and things for the library, again, to think, how am I going to explain this to the public? And then have one of these wonderful librarians and experts be able to hand you the perfect thing that anyone in the public could look at, and they would understand that moment in history.
And that's what excites me so much about working at the Library of Congress, that of course there are these wonderful materials, film, comic books, cookbooks. I mean, you name it in every format, everything. But then when you have a staff member, a librarian, and there's some people that are with us tonight, Robert Newland and Barbara Moreland, and the current staff members that are here, Mark Sweetie and the librarians, they have so much knowledge and they are able to make those connections for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That they are the heart of the library.
They are the heart, and they're the real treasures. And I see Mr. Meacham coming on because we're talking about, and joined by Joanne, and thank you so much.
You may, this illusion may be lost on such a highbrow group, but I live in Tennessee, and so technology is a little like Mr. Drucker's store from Green Acres.
Yeah.
Where you climb up on the top of the general store and call in. So so I appreciate your regional diversity. How are you, Doctor? Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And I was just
I
talking.
really just want to talk. I agreed to do this just so I could meet your mama.
Oh, well, here she is. You know she's here.
I know.
And I was saying earlier, and just remarking before we got started, that there's no greater joy and blessing than to have your mom hear people say such wonderful things about you, and that is the treasure. And also another joy I was mentioning with Joanne is working at the Library of Congress with all these wonderful materials. You're seeing the raw stuff. You hear the notes, but then you have the staff members that can help you. And Joanne was talking, and she worked at the Library of Congress, but she was saying that she was aided by librarians. They were so knowledgeable. And what about you when you were?
Oh, always. Jim Hudson immediately comes to mind. Jeff Flannery. runs the manuscript room. Incredible folks. My favorite discovery in your kingdom was long ago now, Lord, almost 20 years ago. Of course, the way Joanne and I think 20 years ago was like lunch.
Yeah, that's.
So I should add that. Was finding in the Pamela Churchill Harriman papers.
Ooh.
Yeah. Intrinsically, if you're going to die, you should die as ambassador to France in the pool at the Ritz in Paris. That's one of my plans, is to try to die that way. But she had given her wartime papers to the library, and they weren't open yet. And I knew Winston Churchill, the grandson. I once asked him, actually, how much of a burden the name was. And he said, actually, not at all. I've never not gotten a restaurant reservation. So there is that. But finding her letters back from Yalta, I'm sorry, her letters she had received from people who were at Yalta, that was the clearest evidence of FDR's on again, off again relationship with reality as he was fading in February of 1945. And he was occasionally totally with it, and then sometimes not. And it was a firsthand report that had never been published. And I wouldn't have found it without the Library of Congress.
And see, that's the joy of discovery. And we're working now at the Library of Congress, and Senator Blunt mentioned it, on a learning lab or a place for the young and the young at heart to get interested in touch history and think about it. And for distinguished historians like you both, when did you first get the history bug? And what were some of the things that helped you say, wow, this is something?
Well, for me, it was the bicentennial, which I know instantly ages me. But aside from that, the bicentennial was a moment when history was being brought to life in a really powerful way on a lot of different levels. And so I was, the right impressionable sort of early teen, 13, 12 years old to really be swept up in that. And one of the early things I remember, my mom took me to a library, the Shrub Oak Library, and they had an exhibit of writings of various people from the time period. And I remember being so excited that behind the glass were these actual documents from the 18th century. And I remember being up against the glass as close as I could get to the documents. So that whole event taught me about history as a living thing. And I think that idea really never went away.
Mm-hmm.
I had a similar experience, a similar time frame, but a different war. I grew up on a Civil War battlefield, Missionary Ridge in Chattanooga, which is actually how Grant enabled Sherman to get to Georgia, and then ultimately the march to the sea. And I grew up about 800 yards from Braxton Bragg's headquarters, and about 3 miles away from Chief John Ross's house, the head of the Cherokee Nation, who did everything the white man's government asked the nation to do, and we still turned on them and treated them poorly, to say the least. But I could find Manet balls from the battle in my yard as a kid in the 1970s. And so to me, history's always been a tactile thing, quite literally. And I attribute some of this to Southern culture. My grandfather was a judge, and at a very young age, he took me down. When I was little, he would take me to court with him, and I would have coffee with the mayor and the police commissioner and other people. And so to me, history was always authority was always quite human. I will tell you a quick story about my first journalistic or historical inquiry. We had a police commissioner in Chattanooga, Tennessee, known as Bookie Turner. And that's why she's where she is. And I was always wondered why they called him Bookie. And so my grandfather asked Ultimately to the Library of Congress, but stopping here first. I went to him and I said, Commissioner Turner, why do they call you Bookie? And he said, son, it's because I just love to read. Now, the grand jury disagreed when the indictment came back. They saw it actually as a vocational description of how he made his money. But that was my first inquiry.
And it sparked this. And what about the fact that people today, and Jane mentioned this, that they don't see a connection sometimes between what's happening now to any other time, and giving context to current times by saying, whoa, wait, look at this. Is there hope in history?
I'm going to jump in because Joanna's written a brilliant book about this, Fields of Blood, which is about, I think you found, what, 70? Do I have that right?
Physical confrontation. Yeah, that was very good, John.
See, I do read you carefully.
Thank you very much.
70 instances of violence among members of Congress. And so one of the I spend most of my time on this point, Carla, as you know, which is not that because something's happened before doesn't mean it's not happening now. That's not the point. The point is to create a sense of proportion and perspective, and to give us, if not a GPS system on how to get out of something, at least a diagnostic guide. That there are certain symptoms that recur, which previous treatments have proven to be successful. That may not be true 100% of the time, but if it's true 10% of the time, that's pretty good. For where we are.
I want to add to that, John, and that is I agree with what you're saying, absolutely. But it's also worth saying, and it's obvious, but it's worth saying anyway, we are a product of where we've been, for better and worse. We are a product of where we've been, and it's impossible to understand what's going on now, for better and worse, that without that history, without a real grounded, deep understanding of where we've been. So history is essential for us to understand who we are as a country and who we are as Americans, what we did right and what we didn't do right in the past, and thus what we can do in the future to be better.
What about some discoveries that you made when you're looking? You mentioned the Yalta letters and the instances of when you're going looking for instances of violence. Or did you have some pinch me moments though in some of your?
Oh, for sure.
You just said, "Am I really looking at this?"
Well, the whole book with the 70 incidents of violence grew out of the Library of Congress. I had 3 months, a fellowship to be there for 3 months, and happened to look in a collection of letters where a congressman kept talking in 1838 about physical fights. And I thought, he's either entertaining his wife or there's some things here that we haven't seen before. So for those 3 months, every day I would open a new collection of the letters of a congressman, and there would be more evidence of violence. So the book grew out of that. But maybe the most dramatic thing I found in those months of research was, obviously a lot of what I write about in the 19th century has to do with dueling, right? The drama of a duel. And one of the things about dueling is that people involved in a duel never save the challenge, the actual letter that's a challenge, because that's the most illegal part of a duel, is the challenge. And buried in a congressman's papers in the library is an actual challenged letter. And I remember sitting in the manuscript reading room and picking this up and thinking, like, I don't know if another one exists of this. This is like the most illegal piece of paper I've handled. In someone's papers, not necessarily a well-known person, but again, a member of Congress who gave his papers to the library. What a remarkable piece of evidence as to something that seems really foreign and, in a sense, alien and in the past, and yet really, as John was just saying, says so much about the spirit of our politics at different times.
History detectives. John?
I'm sort of if Joanne is Nancy Drew, can I be one of the Hardy Boys?
Yeah.
Would that be okay? But there's no other. There are only two reasons to do this. because it's really hard, actually. One is the thrill of discovery and the adding to the sum of human knowledge, which you're at least finding something that exists and putting it in the vernacular, and that's a great thrill, but a great responsibility too. And the other reason is to try, I think, to illustrate what I see as, and I won't drag Joanne into this, the moral utility of history, which is an idea I sort of developed out of some thoughts of Arthur Claysinger's, which is that self-righteousness in retrospect is easy, also cheap. So to look back on the past as a poor, benighted land that if only they knew what we knew, they would have been better people. You know, the reason the Constitution was written the way it was written is because they figured we would always be benighted. Fundamentally, the Constitution's a Calvinistic document. It assumes that we will do the wrong thing more often than we do the right thing. And we've done everything we can since Philadelphia to prove them right. But the other is, I think, part of the utility of history is if even the best people of a given era, and I've written about Jackson, Jefferson, Franklin Roosevelt. I mean, these are guys who, if you tried to erect a statue now from scratch, it probably wouldn't go well. But my view is that if even the best people of a previous generation could get things so woefully wrong, such big things, then what are we getting wrong now? And what will posterity say of us when they're going to the library in 100 years, if the planet hasn't been burned up, and say, how was it that we lived with X, Y, or Z? And I think that there's a certain homiletic power to history. And I really don't want to drag my colleague from Yale into this, but I believe this firmly, that it's much easier to listen to sermons from sinners than from saints. And so when you find a flawed figure, which is to say any figure, and you find that they did anything good, that's a story worth telling and promulgating, because that's the best we can do in a fallen world.
I think too, like John, you're talking about, when you talk about posterity, you're talking about thinking like a library, right? Thinking like a library that documents what has happened, and thinking to yourself, what will the future see of us? What will they have of us? What kind of evidence will we leave behind? We're not posterity minded as a people very often, but thinking like a library means you have to think about posterity and what kinds of evidence you'll leave behind of who we've been and who we're trying to be.
Exactly.
And that's back to the staff, the people who work at the Library of Congress, because in some of the most exciting jobs are not only the ones who catalog and make the things accessible and the finding aids, but the ones who are saying, what do we need to collect now?
Yeah.
That a Joanne and a John would look at now digitally as well. What things are happening now that we need to make sure that we preserve and conserve and go after? And that's the beauty of it, because you see the thoughtfulness of the collections, and the fact that you both have mined those collections is truly part of the honor of tonight for me, I must say, because you're the reason and you exemplify what the Library of Congress is. It's been called the greatest gift that Congress has given to the nation. I'd love for both of you to talk about that. One of the greatest gifts.
Isn't that kind of like being the best restaurant in the hospital?
But one of the best gifts.
Sorry. One of the best, yeah, exactly. I'll jump in and say, I don't see how you tell the story of post-Kennedy America. And I wouldn't just start in Dallas. I would start in the debates in the fall of 1960 without television archives. And then you couldn't tell the story of the last 5 years without social media archives. And how you all do that, I've got
We're working on it.
But it's not just Twitter. It's to understand the kinds of divisions and the kind of polarization. You know, if we're telling that story about the 1960s, we can look at direct mail from the John Birch Society, right? We can look at Robert Welch's little paperbacks that used to go around. To do that now requires a kind of archival commitment to Facebook, which is such an immense sea of data. I don't know quite how you do it.
We're doing it.
But I can see how one would tell the story of 2015 to 2021, and perhaps beyond, by these clusters of people and how information moved in that way.
You know, my first introduction to the library was working on a big national project commemorating the bicentennial of Congress. So my job was to mine the library for things that told the history of Congress, which of course is really the history of the United States. And what an amazing introduction, as you said, going from division to division, working with people in those divisions, coming up with these amazing artifacts that, as Jon is suggesting, tell the story. And being able to arrange them in one of the library's wonderful spaces so that people can walk through it and see America's story through documents and things. What a power. And what a fascinating thing, as Jon is suggesting, to think about how and what it is you're saving. I remember when I worked for the library, sitting in on a meeting in the manuscript division when they were talking about what are we saving? How do we save email? What medium should we put it in so that in 50 years we can open it? You know, fascinating to think about. And, you know, as you know better than anyone else, at the heart and soul of hanging on to these pieces of history.
Joanne and Jon, I must say, we could go on all night, at least for another hour, but I've been told you should never get a political science and history major who turned into a librarian together with people like you. That's not a good
Dangerous.
For a short night.
Combination.
Yeah, that's not a good one. So thank you both. You really give me some inspiration too, and I can't thank you enough.
Well, congratulations. It's richly deserved.
Congratulations.
Thank you both. Jane, you just, wow.
Well, Dr. Hayden, you are a perfect panel moderator, and the guests, you know, because
not hard.
You leave everybody wanting more, but feeling like it's been an extraordinary conversation.
Wonderful.
So we thank you, Dr. Freeman, Jon Meacham, for coming. We know that at Vanderbilt, they even have technology. My daughter went there for her college years. And
I'm not blaming Vanderbilt. This is my 12-year-old's out of the house. That was the problem.
There you go.
Well, now that's a problem. That's a problem.
My IT director.
But we are now about to get to the highlight of the evening. So we thank you both for being here. And just so you know that there's going to be a little time to mingle later. So now we are about to have the actual presentation. We're going to bring up our board chairman, Don Carlson.
Thank you to everyone who's assembled here tonight to honor our great honoree, Dr. Hayden. The Freedom Award is the highest honor that the U.S. Capitol Historical Society can present. Previous speakers have gone through the litany as well as the video of the many distinguished people who have received this award over the years. We have honored leaders whose appreciation and love of history and whose careers have fostered and encouraged the use of history to promote civic education. Those of us looking at our educational system today lament the lessening of time that is spent on bringing our young people a full knowledge of our history and what it means to them. we have presented this award, as said, to many distinguished people, and we add another one tonight. You walk in distinguished company, Dr. Hayden, and congratulations.
And under the visionary leadership of Dr. Hayden, the Library of Congress has demonstrated a remarkable ability to adapt, to evolve to the needs of today, even before the public health crisis. You had that going on. But amidst the pandemic, Dr. Hayden, you kept the vitality of the Library of Congress programs, including bringing the book festival alive virtually in an engaging format. The immense and wide-reaching impact of the Library of Congress in everything from academia to the arts and culture is a testament to the institution's value and your stewardship of that institution. Dr. Hayden, you are the perfect leader for this time. And on behalf of the United States Capitol Historical Society, together with our board chair and with the help of your mama, it is our pleasure to present the 2020 Freedom Award.
Thank you so, so much. This, Jane and Don, it is such an honor, yes, to be in the illustrious company of your previous awardees. And I think the board and everyone associated with this presentation, the sponsors, the members of Congress who have participated, Speaker Pelosi, Chairman Blunt, who is in a little competition with Senator Bozeman about my mom's origins. Is it Arkansas or Missouri? And it helped with the confirmation. And I just also have to say that I know that having this type of wonderful event moved rather unexpectedly to a virtual format took quite a bit of work and ingenuity. And I want to thank everyone who has worked so hard to make this happen and has dealt with technology and Wi-Fi connections. That makes it even more. And there was a lot of anxiety, but we shared that and know what it's like to have to take something this important and massive to a virtual world. And the library's mission to connect all Americans, people all over the world with these wonderful collections has been able to be aided by technology. In fact, when I was nominated and had an interview with President Obama, he said, I have seen at the Library of Congress the draft of the Gettysburg Address that President Lincoln probably took on the field. I've seen the contents of his pockets the night he was assassinated. And I've also seen so many other treasures. What can you do as Librarian of Congress to make sure that everyone has that opportunity? And so since that time, I have been working with, I think, one of the most enthusiastic staff that you could ever work with. And we have been working so hard to make sure that a fourth grader in Montgomery, Alabama gets to see Rosa Parks's handwritten notes on how she felt when she was arrested. And also that an aspiring musician like the wonderful young man that sang the national anthem from Oregon. Thank you so much for that. They're a treasure here in Maryland. Can see the papers of Leonard Bernstein and really touch creativity. And also a mother in South Carolina who has been working in virtual learning with her child. And we heard from her recently during this pandemic that has been able to supplement the virtual learning with the resources that the library has put together, as Senator Blunt said, on an Engage page where you have activities that help people mine the 61 million items that the library has digitized. And I stand on the shoulders of other librarians of Congress, my immediate predecessor, and so many others who have worked at the library. I also want to thank you, too, for allowing me to connect through this award with people I have worked with in my career from the Enoch Pratt Free Library, and there are a number of people who have been part of that journey, and I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't had those experiences and worked with the people there, especially Mr. Bob Hillman, my first board chair, who said, just do it. And we did so much together. And also the staff members now, and that's who I would like to accept this award for and with, the staff members of the Library of Congress who serve this nation every day in their work and who want to make sure that everyone has hope in history. So thank you for this special award, and thank you for allowing my mother to be a part of the ceremony. And as you can see, she's taking her duties very seriously, but it means so much to be able to accept this with her here, and I can't thank you all enough.
Well, my friends, thank you, Dr. Hayden, for your gracious remarks and for letting us honor you today. This evening has certainly been different than we would have anticipated, but I think it has been a memorable evening. And I want to be very thankful to all of those of you who participated, for those who donated, for Mariko Bennett and Coco B for helping us create an event, for our own staff at the Society led by Jen to pull something off, for the Library of Congress staff. Roswell, you're phenomenal, and for each and every one of you. So what we're going to do now is, because we have this cool platform that by now you've figured out you can touch people and have private video conversations. We're going to leave it open for a little bit of time so that you can mingle. Like if you were at a real event, you know, you would talk to people. Well, this is what happens. And then we'll just close out the evening. And thank you all so much for your help, for your support, and for your love of history. Stay safe, stay well, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.